so I can lose those green with envy, red with anger, purple passionate blue. I gotta get something for that. Purple with passion blue.
Welcome to the Braacast. This is Erik Braa. On this episode, introductions, my origin story. Plus, I sit down with Terry McGovern. We talk his background, we talk acting, we talk some voiceover with Walking Dead, DuckTales, and Star Wars, and we do some serious name dropping. But before that, the number one frequently asked question of me in our voiceover facts.
Voiceover facts.
And to answer that, let me give you some perspective.
Introduce yourself right on. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to do that again. Making a note there. Kill that drop.
Just read 'em your bio. That'll explain it all.
Oh, right, the bio. Erik Braa is an award-winning actor and voice talent, but he sucks at writing bios. I mean, who does that? Have you read some people's bios? You can tell they're written by themselves. It's kind of sickening, really. It's who reads them anyways? I mean, do you really care that I had a puppy named Brandy and it somehow influenced who I am as an artist today? Does knowing that somehow make you want to put me in your product? Oh, it does? Well, in that case, it all started when I was 7 and I had these Hot Wheels and I would give each car a different voice. Of course, thinking back about Hot Wheels makes me think about cars, which makes me think about when Brandy got run over. And that's how I learned about loss. Ooh, awkward. Sorry. All right, let's just do this the right way. I'm Erik Braa. I'm an actor and voice talent. You may have seen me in I Almost Got Away With It on Investigation Discovery. Shout out. Freeburg, episode 6.
I Almost Got Away With It. Tonight at 10. Only on Investigation Discovery.
In voiceover, I'm also Jax and Draven in League of Legends.
Who wants a piece of the champ? Bring it on.
Welcome to the League of Draven. We'll get around to those at some time, I'm sure, in the future, and let's just get moving on here. So, in order to answer the frequently asked question, I need to tell you a little bit about who I am. I was in video games for over 10 years, and I was doing testing and then finally some design and producing. And on the side, every now and again, somebody would say, you've got a crazy, funny voice. Let's go put you into one of our games or do something. And on the side, I would do some stuff. It was during the last gaming job that I had when a friend of mine had met Terry McGovern. And Terry gave him a card, said, tell the kid to call me, no problem, we'll check him out. So I called Terry, and we had a nice discussion. And, of course, he directed me to do acting because you have to act to do voice acting. So I gave it a shot, and then I worked with Terry to get my demo and everything put together and submitted to an agency. And I've been doing professional voiceover for about 5 years or so now. So anyway, that's a little bit of my origin story, where I came from and how I'm doing this. That's the very brief version. But it all brings me to the frequently asked question. And the frequently asked question is, drum roll please, how did you get into doing voiceover? And it's the question I'm asked so often, it's ridiculous. As a matter of fact, 2 days ago, I was just asked it again. So here's how you do it. You figure out what you've got in the world of voice. So you figure out what you've got, what kind of voices you've got, what you can do, whether or not you want to do characters or you want to do just commercial stuff and talk about products or however you want to do it. Next thing you do is you put together those things. You know how many voices you have. Maybe you have a guy who does, hey, how you doing? I'm this guy. Or I'm this guy over here. And what you do is you put those together and you decide how you're going to share that with the world. And in the case of me, I did what they call a salad mix, which is just a long series of voice after voice after voice with a little sound effect in between. Other people have a narrative that goes through it, and they do a long demo that is, the famous one that I've always heard of is the sound of every voice of the guy's demo getting delivered till it goes all the way up to the top guy. So it starts off with the male guy. I have a letter for you. And then that goes to the secretary all the way up through, and eventually it gets up to the top guy who's like, well, what do we have here? Well, this is so-and-so's demo. Oh, that's wonderful. And there you go. They introduce themselves. They do a series of voices. They give you an idea of their range, and they do it all in one presentation. Short, couple of minutes long at most. And then you submit that to an agent, and you submit that to several agents, and you keep submitting it until someone listens to it and gives you a chance. Or they give you some constructive feedback and tell you, nah. It doesn't hurt to do some acting classes. You're going to hear from Terry McGovern in this episode, and he's an excellent instructor, my mentor, my teacher, the guy who got me going. So that's somebody you can definitely do a resource, and we will do plenty of shout-outs and name dropping. So MarinActorsWorkshop.com or MarinActors.com, I believe, as well. So you can go ahead and get a hold of him anytime you'd like. He's in San Rafael, California. But there are teachers all over the nation. So what you need to do is find somebody locally in your area. At least take a beginner class. At least talk to them about, what it's like, and let them hear you and give you a little feedback, because that's pretty important. If you know somebody in the voiceover industry, maybe they can help you out too. So there you go. That's the answer. You're not going to like it. It's work. It's work, 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 work. There's a saying that's 10,000 hours. Doing something 10,000 hours makes you a professional or journeyman or something to that effect. Well, do it for 10,000 hours. If you were my student, if I was your instructor, the first thing I would do is tell you to do it for 20 to 30 minutes a day, every single day, whether that's watching TV and mimicking the things you hear on a commercial, or that's creating characters and doing little audio skits. Learn how to record, get yourself set up with something that you can do to record. There's cheap ways of doing that. $100 USB mic and a free program called Audacity, and you can be doing this tonight. But here's the thing. You need to do it every single day, and you need to work it. That's a bare minimum, by the way. Just want to throw that in there. You'll never get anywhere if you don't want to put the time and effort in. That goes with anything that you try to do. So there you go. So I think that pretty much answers it. How do you get into this? You work hard. You have something to deliver. You share that with the world, and hopefully you get an opportunity to be in front of an agent and let them talk to you about what you've got. So, frequently asked question, done. And now let's move on to really the feature of this episode, the great Terry McGovern. All right, so Terry, let's get a little bit of your
I think we should mention that we're coming to you live from the Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami, Florida.
Well, thank you.
And if you had the right ambiance later.
Miami, Florida, absolutely. I'll throw in some seagulls.
Throw a loop in there, buddy. Just put a loop in there, and you won't know. You folks won't know where you're at.
Oh, and just for the record, Terry makes me laugh a lot.
I was possessed as a child to do voices. I don't know why, but I did Johnny Ray, Mel Torme, and Senator Kefauver. I don't know who it was I did, but I was a mimic. I was a born mimic, and I'm not saying that I was a great one, but I was a born mimic. I was one of these kids that had to be off doing voices, and so that's how that all started. And then I got interested in acting, and then I really fell in love with radio because my father went to school on the GI Bill, and went to Tulsa University and raised 3 kids. And we lived in a barracks. I mean, it was nuts, but it was wonderful. It was good times. And he worked at the campus station, and I would go with him, and I just fell in love, man, walking into those studios and the glass, partitions and the microphones and a piano off on the side and everything. So, and he got a job in professional radio and later television. And so I grew up. I'm a brat, a broadcast brat. And I'm also an advertising brat because he became an advertising guy, copywriter. So I grew up in it.
And so that was your welcome into theater of the mind.
Yeah, but I mean, we also had in Pittsburgh a guy who was phenomenal. His name was Reg Kordick, and he would loom very large in my life. But he was, when I was a kid, I listened to him. And he was just amazing. And his show was very, very slow paced. What were we watching earlier? We were watching something that was... I was watching some Mike Nichols and Elaine May with somebody. And this person, a very funny person, said, "This is so funny, but it's so long." Because everything now is a minute or forget it.
Right.
So it was great to grow up on that kind of a format where people could just do what they wanted to do.
So your natural mimic came through when you got into radio, where you would do the characters and the people calling in and things like that.
Right, yeah. I mean, I just automatically mimicked and did voices. Probably annoyed some people, but that was my style, to slip in and out of a voice, talking in one, just being myself, and then suddenly you're saying, "Well, it looks like a gusty wind." The gusty winds were in the forecast, so you became gusty winds. It was silly. It was just silly fun, pointless, no politics, no point of view. Simply talking about the music and the artist that you were playing.
No, you were doing on-camera and additional voiceover on the side of this while you were doing KSFO.
Right, yeah, I was doing KSFO, and I was doing commercials for Clorox and Pier 1 and some other local, we had a lot of hot local
But
accounts.
besides the radio, see, I know you pretty well from some of your on-camera stuff, including you were...
I was hoping you wouldn't mention that.
Yeah. You were Mr. North in American Graffiti.
Mr. Wolf.
Or Mr. Wolf. Mr. Wolf.
Get it? Wolf? I was a wolf.
You were Mr. Wolf in American Graffiti. You've been seen in Mrs. Doubtfire.
I've been seen.
There's
It's like occasionally he's not seen in it, but if you catch the right episode, oh, there he is. I'm during the credits. Nobody ever sees my brilliant work. I'm a one-scene actor.
You have mentioned this to me before.
No, I
you only
appear,
get one scene.
I will do a major motion picture if I'm asked, but I will only do one scene. And Doubtfire is a perfect example of what went wrong.
Right.
Because Chris Columbus told me that this was going to be about my character, the ADR director.
Absolutely, Lou.
And they followed Robbins.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for you, I
I
guess.
was bitter for a long time. Robin, to be with him that took 14 hours to shoot that, and he's just almost too much fun to be human. During the shooting of it, he came up with this because he doesn't want to stay in reality, so he creates some other thing you can do, riff with him, and when he invites you to riff with him, it's quite flattering, to play with him, and he does it with everybody. I mean, he's very open, and so he became, because I was kind of heavier then and had the beard, and so I was Pavarotti and he was Keith Richards, and he kept saying, Come on, Luciano, let's have another bump. No, I can't, Keith. I cannot do another bump and work tonight. I have to sing. And this went on for 14 hours. Just mayhem. What a great guy. And I also got to meet Chuck Jones, the great animator, since we're talking about, doing voices for objects and whatever it is, we're doing the voice for. Chuck Jones was one of the, seminal, brilliant. He was Looney Tunes. He and Tex Avery. They did all those wonderful cartoons.
Well,
with Mel,
of course, yeah.
With Mel as the voice.
Yeah.
And it was a remarkable combination of things that they had going.
Yeah, when I look back at this,
pardon me, and Carl Stallings doing the music.
Yeah.
Have you explored Carl Stallings? Yeah, you really ought to, because if you want to just ad-lib someday and you want to play with your voices, get the Carl Stalling tapes or CDs or whatever they are. And this was the guy that arranged and recorded all the music for the Looney Tunes. And when you listen to it, you see a Looney Tune.
Right.
And so you could just kind of riff and make up your own characters. And then they would come and get you.
Then they would.
Your mom would say, "He's up in his room, officer." He's been talking into his woolen sack for months.
And we will get back to this, but you also were the voice of the stormtrooper saying,
"These aren't the droids we're looking for."
Yeah, but I mean, that's all over. It's a thing of the past.
We'll get back to that later. Right now, I just want to make sure you get an idea of some of the epic voiceover work that Terry has done, including, most recently, a charming little fellow named Larry in The Walking Dead from Telltale Games.
Get it? You're gonna whoop me? You and what homo parade? This one. That's good. Little boy, before you eat your mommy, you can watch your dad get his nose broken.
What an unpleasant man. You know how much fun it is for an actor to play a bad person?
Oh, right.
I mean, it's so boring to play the lead or the nice guy.
Right.
To play a real shit. That's
To be evil.
Yeah.
To be truly evil.
That's fun.
And you worked with Jory over at Studio Jory.
Yeah.
And obviously Telltale.
Yeah, Julian.
How was it working
Bay
for those
Area
guys?
Sound, Julian.
Yeah, he's great.
What a wizard.
Yeah, he is really good. A good director, too. I've worked with him.
He's everything I've ever wanted in a man. And I'm hoping that he gets to hear this. I love you.
So how
Julian.
was it? So
and I can do so many other voices. My character has died, Julian, but I want to come back. Julian and Jory in that fantastic studio in Fairfax next to the old pot club. I mean, it's just it's wonderful. I ride my bike when I go down there to do a session. It's
wonderful.
pretty cool. Yeah,
That's
it's pretty
really
cool.
nice.
And Telltale, I really do want to make a plug for them because they are providing for voice actors, and I like to think we're actors first, you know, and we very seldom get an opportunity to create a real life character. We do cartoon stuff, we do voices of penguins and such, anthropomorphism, but we very seldom get a chance to work on real life characters, and Telltale has managed through, I guess, with their great talent, to get all these great franchises, CSI, and I did a Law and Order, you know, and you get, I mean, you get to go in there and use your acting chops.
Well, they
change your voice, you adapt, you invent a character, but then you get to actually act.
Right, they're well known for their characters and their story being the highlight of the game, and not necessarily, you know, the mechanic of the game or the. They're very story and character driven. So
yeah, well, they're the shit. I mean, they really are.
Yeah, no, they're great. I love them. I've worked with them myself, and I'm real happy to.
I know you
do
have.
it. Yeah,
you're doing good with them.
And now, not only do you do voiceover for the characters that come in, and you've done some commercial as well. But sticking with video games and just sort of the acting side of it, you teach, and you coach,
right?
It's no big.
I wish you'd drop and give me 10 right now, brah.
There's no big secret that you. I mean, for me personally, you got me going in voiceover. I mean, I was doing little things before that, but you really sort of put me in it, and so you were my mentor.
Well,
and my teacher.
You have a change in your life. You go from detesting your competition to accepting and encouraging them. That's the big transition of life.
Not
it's
not
an
everybody.
age thing. It's
not
no. Some people remain edgy, but I like teaching people, and I like sharing what I know because I've been doing this since I was a kid, since I was a teenager.
Right. So let's plug your class.
Oh, Marin Actors Workshop. Just go to marinactors.com. Marinactors.com.
If you're in the Bay Area, it's perfect because you can actually coach them and help them work on a demo.
Right.
As well.
Yeah. We made a lot of demos. I don't know why I said we. I don't have a mouse in my pocket. I really like it. You know, I do a lot of demos here, and matter of fact, I got 2 to get out this weekend. And some of the people, you know, the pasta sticks to the fridge or whatever, you know, and they get an agent. Some don't. Some take the first turn down as, well, I did what I was supposed to do. I spent the money and I got the demo and I sent it off and I got my rejection letter. And and they let it die, you know.
Right.
And I got to tell you, I've even had situations where people get representation from their demo, and then they, I don't know, they lose their enthusiasm for it after a few months because they find out what work it is.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
It's tedious. We love it, and we piss and moan when we don't have any. You know, when the agency isn't sending the MP3 auditions and all that. But
well, that's something to talk about.
It is work.
It is something to talk about, though, that today's voiceover artist and actor is kind of expected to be a little bit of an engineer enough, at least, to record themselves and handle everything in their booth to at least do their auditions, let alone, if you can record from home, you just open another stream of revenue.
Yeah.
Or another opportunity.
Well, I've produced games from here. I've recorded, voices for games. We did a whole batch of stuff for Family Feud, for that company up in Ludia in Quebec. That's pretty exciting.
It's time to play Family Feud. Let's see today.
Yeah, you call their studio in the morning, or the guys that you're going to be working with. Bonjour. Everything's in French and then in English, and then you work with these guys, and I'm working in this little home studio, and it's going up the tube, the internets. How's that called? The series of tubes, I believe. And then there's a guy at the end with real big ears, and he pulls all that stuff out of the tubes. It's miraculous. What were you saying earlier? You were saying something about, you were quoting somebody who said every year will advance 12.
I believe it's Kurzweil. Yeah, was talking about how he's a futurist and how technology will surpass. I mean, we every year it almost doubles the amount of capability and tech that we actually produce.
Not sure I have that quote right, so I'll let you look that up. But Kurzweil.
And how do you feel about that? Is that okay with you? Because that really is daunting at my age.
Well, I have to say, when you look at it as these are all tech and they're designed to help you. Mm-hmm. So as long as you can make it work for yourself, it just made your life so much easier. I mean, the fact that we're sitting here in your studio, and a couple of years ago, voiceover artists, you were big time if you had a home studio. A lot of folks had to constantly go to the agency.
Can I tell you a quick story?
Oh, please.
When I first got here in 1969, in the winter of '69, we were hungry. There was a man who lived in the community in the area named Paul Freeze.
Oh, yes.
And I'm not very big, but he was smaller than me and very kind of pear-shaped. And he spoke like this. And if you know Paul Freeze, if you don't know who Paul Freeze was the voice and remains the voice of Disneyland.
When hinges creak in doorless chambers, and strange and frightening sounds echo through the halls, whenever candlelights flicker, where the air is deathly still, that is the time when ghosts are present, practicing their terror with ghoulish delight.
So he is everywhere. He's in the submarine. He's the original Abe Lincoln animatronics. He does everything now, and his voice is still used in the park. He was also a famous guy, an associate of Stan Freberg. I don't know if you became a fan of Freberg, but I would recommend anybody who's interested in voiceovers, in voice acting, to go to iTunes and get Stan Freberg Presents the United States of America.
Stan Freberg modestly presents the United States of America. The early years.
And it was recorded in 1959, and it still sounds like it was something that was done this year because of the production values, the writing, the recording, and it's a spoof of the growth of the United States. And Paul Frees is one of the preeminent voices in the cast. Okay, so he then goes on in the 70s to become the voice of Poppin' Fresh Dough.
Oh, okay, right. The Pillsbury Doughboy.
The Pillsbury Doughboy.
Don't forget home baked at your house. Bake Pillsbury.
And for some reason or other, he befriended me. And I was like his pet project or something. And so every time I'd see him in a recording studio, he would break away from whatever he was doing and come and talk to me. And at one point, after he had talked to me for half an hour, and I was supposed to be back in my booth, recording songs, I forget what it was, and he was in with a whole army of people in a recording studio. And finally, some meek sacrificial lamb came out and said, "Mr. Freese, they're waiting for you, Leo Burnett back in Chicago to finish." And he said, "Can you not see that I'm speaking with my friend?" I mean, they don't make people like this anymore, right?
That's a good class to be in right there.
And he was one of a kind. But here's the reason I think of it is because it was like when I first got here, and my boss in radio had he had a phone in his car. Now, it is impossible to imagine how futuristic, how implausible that would be if you're sitting in a guy's car and he reaches down and picks up a telephone in 1970. It's just, you can't imagine that it's happening. Well, Paul Frees, it was almost like this great mythological story. Frees has a tea line in Tiburon, because that's where he lived. Tiburon, Belvedere, somewhere.
Wow.
And he had this sanctum sanctorum where he recorded and sent stuff down to L.A. or New York or wherever.
Now on to the hardest part of in this plan.
And that is?
We're going to take Washington.
Darling, that's not hard.
No.
Look at headline.
Boston takes Washington 7-2.
Anybody can take Washington.
Yeah. He had the straight, wide open, very expensive cable, open telephone cable. And he was a great guy, but a strange character, a very strange character.
Well, you say character, and I think of one of my favorites of yours, Launchpad McQuack. I grew up with DuckTales. I absolutely loved it, and Launchpad had to be my favorite character.
He was alcoholic,
An alcoholic pilot.
A lot of people, well, that was the problem. That's why they're crashing.
Oh, right. Okay, well, there we go.
Do you know that if Disney actually heard me say that, they would send a squad of ninja assassins to my house?
Maybe I should.
They really protect their copyright.
I better edit that out.
No.
You won't hear any of this.
He was a wonderful character. I'll tell you how I got it. I went to Voicecasters in the mid-'80s, somewhere around '84, and Voicecasters was this casting facility run by Bob Lloyd, a good guy with whom I didn't get along very well, but it was kind of my fault. I was very brash, and he was actually a good guy, a terrific guy. And but he partitioned things. You would come and audition for the A material or the B material, and he had everything parsed out. And I was trying to make, amends with him because I was trying to work my way up to the A material. And I came in one day and it said, and I had driven from West LA, Century City, outer Beverly Hills, as we called it, all the way over the hump. I mean, if you live in LA, you're traveling, I'm not kidding, 100 miles sometimes a day. It's ridiculous. And I get all the way over to Burbank, and the line was something like, "Try it. You'll like it." You drive all that distance, no word tonnage of any kind. It's just, what? And I see this pile of copy, and it says, "For A actors or for this list only, Disney audition." And I look and I see this drawing of Launchpad McQuack, and what caught my eye was that it said, "This voice should be a combination of Jack Burns and John Ratzenberger," who are both kind of Bostonian sounding guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to do Jack Burns. I mean, I still do Jack Burns. And Jack Burns was I don't know if you remember him from Andy and Mayberry. Hey, Ange.
Right.
And by the way, Andy detested him. He just detested Jack. And Jack was originally a partner, and I have their album with George Carlin. That was his. They were comedy partners.
Wow.
And did a lot of radio together. In any event, I was able to do that voice and nail it, and so I got the part. And that's where that came from, just that experience of doing. Oh, and I had to call my agent and kind of threaten him because Bob Lloyd didn't want to let me do it. I wasn't on his list, and so I called my agent from a phone in my car and said, "If you don't get me in on this audition, I'll hold my breath till I turn blue." And he said, "Okay, relax. I'll call." And Bob let me in, and I did it, and that's where that came from.
Yeah, I love Launchpad. He's by far one.
Well, Launch, he's got that Boston thing going for him, and we all, "Hey, Mr. McD, hi, little fella." What a lovable guy.
Oh, lovable.
I love doing him. It makes me feel good. And over the years, I've done it for my kids' friends.
Yeah.
Hey, Dad, do Launchpad. But I always charged those kids. I thought anything, if they had lunch money, change was okay. I'm a professional actor. You can't come into my home and then expect me to just lie down for you. Come on, kids.
All right, so we touched on it a minute ago, and I guess I want to come back to that. You were the voice of the Stormtrooper, and now, because of the years that have passed...
Can I say something?
Yeah,
you're
please.
doing a hell of a job in this interview. I've done thousands of interviews, and you're really good, Erik.
Oh, thank you.
You got me very at ease. Of course, I'm in my house and drinking large amounts of vitamins, and... But you're very good. You're not writing anything down. You're not using any notes, and you're coming back to this thing that we glossed over earlier. Very well done.
So,
what is your name? the voice on Star Wars: A New Hope, which was the first one, as everybody knows. I got a call, and I had done voices on THX. I had been in American Graffiti. So I was just this local actor. And he lived and continues to live right down the road here in San Anselmo. And he or Fred Roos, one of his producers or somebody, or might have been Ben Burt, the incredible sound genius, called and said, "Can you get some actors together to come over and do some loops?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And I called friends of mine who were in the committee. Older guys, they just happened to be, but they were Jerry Walters, who was president of AFTER at the time, Scott Beach, the great Renaissance man, Morgan Upton, what a wonderful comedic mind, just really funny guys. And we all did voice work, we were all voice actors. So we all met at George's house, and we sat around this big screening room on couches and things. And Ben Burt's running around with a Nagra with sheets of paper. And we said, "Well, wait a minute, George," because George is just this little nerdy guy. He's cool, but he's not God yet. And we said, "What is this? Can you give us any idea?" So he showed us a trailer for the movie. And the trailer was the Death Star exploding. No graphics, nothing, no voiceover, nothing. Just the Death Star exploded. It took about 90 seconds. And the lights came back up, and we all looked at each other and said, "What is that?" He said, "Well, it's this outer space thing." "Oh, okay, all right, fine. So what do you want us to say?" And we all passed the scripts around. And it just so happened in the final selections, probably by Ben, they grabbed me saying, whatever the intro line is, we have to find out whose droids these are or something. But of course the line that always gets quoted is the subsequent line, these are not the droids we're looking for, move along. Well, I had no idea. Nobody knew what this was, this film. So a couple of years later, I'm living in L.A., and a friend of mine runs a radio station there, and he's got a screening of a new movie called Star Wars. I said, I did some voices. I go in, and I am absolutely, I was turned into stone. I couldn't believe what I was seeing and hearing.
Right.
It was so overwhelming on the big screen. And then suddenly I hear my voice come out of this sand trooper's voice, and I turned to my friend, and I grabbed him. I said, I'm in the scene with Alec Guinness. Because that's the way it got put in. So, yeah, I got a lot of cheesy jobs out of that.
Well, absolutely. But
hey, this guy is the guy that did the voice for the thing.
Well, the funny thing is now that they've had the next 3 that came out, that obviously now they're 1, 2, and 3, but
this has a very bitter ending, ladies and gentlemen.
It is a very bitter ending, and it brings to point the fact that you know, like your legacy and things like that.
My immortality.
And whether or not that should be respected at all in the future. I mean, you're now being replaced by the
voice of Boba Fett.
Yes, he's from New Zealand.
Yes, he is. That actor is going to replace in the new 3D version.
Yeah, it's already. Yeah, it's out.
It's out, and so our voices are gone, gone. Boba Fett's voice replaced because he was the prototype. But I will tell you, somebody tried to encourage me. A guy that works at ILM, who shall remain nameless, said, "You know what? People will collect that first issue. Mm-hmm. You know, that'll be a more important collector's item." Mm-hmm. And I can only hope that's true. And try to remember, Han shot first.
Yes,
he did. God damn it, he shot first. Take that, Georgia.
So I guess I'll ask you to if you have tips or techniques that you want to share.
Tips or ticks? I do have a tick, which fortunately they can't see. My tips would be to remember that when, the sessions always take care of themselves, the shoots, whatever you want to call them, the final, job that you do if you get selected. It's all about the audition. And in the audition, you want to stay open to, whatever information they give you, whatever direction they give you. Sometimes it can be very ambiguous. Mm-hmm. They try real hard, but they get a little caught up in their own, I don't know what it is. We're looking for kind of a James Earl Jones, Britney Spears kind of sound,
Oops, I did it again.
Yeah. Oops. Very good. See, I love that. He's a typical voice actor. I got to tell this story. This is a voice actor whose name I won't use because he's gone and he was a sweetheart. But he was the most competitive man I've ever known. And I was auditioning for something that he already had a part in. It was a series of radio commercials. And we sat at it was Imagination Inc. on Jackson Street in the heyday of, advertising in the city. And they wanted a gangster voice. And so he, since he already had kind of the anchor position in these commercials, was interviewing me. And, I would be in one commercial as a gangster. So he talks to me and he says, and I started going through my gangster voices. I did this here, and I did this guy up in here like that. And then I thought of the old Sheldon Leonard voice. Sheldon Leonard was in Guys and Dolls. And Sheldon Leonard talked like this. And the client said, that's the voice. And this guy said, that's Sheldon Leonard. I can do Sheldon Leonard. You already have a job. Shut up, relax. So it does get pretty crazy out there. It gets competitive. But, it was like welcoming you into this madness. I have voice actor friends, old timers like me, who say, "Why are you training these people? Why are you?" And I said, because the cream's going to rise to the top anyway. They're going to find a way to do it. Why not give them a fun way of doing it and a way of, kind of coming to terms with the ups and the downs of the business. Mm-hmm. So, and you came with that. You came with a good sense of realism and understanding of how things work, and you adapted brilliantly. I mean, look what you've done in just a couple of years. We made a demo, what, 4 years ago?
Roughly, yeah.
Roughly 4 years, 4.5, okay? Okay, 5, all right? But in 5 years, look what you've done.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a body of work, man. You're amazing. Erik Braa, I love you. You're the only son that ever made a name for himself.
No, that is not true. You have some...
The rest of the boys are gelatinous. they're not really well formed.
As I'm looking at a picture of your two sons on
I know,
the screen here.
They're the most gorgeous.
One of them
Brendan is a police
very
officer.
large individual.
Yeah, Brendan's a big police officer who just put a chicken coop in the backyard. And the other guy, who's not as small as he looks, he's close to 6 feet. That's Anthony. He's a nursing student enjoying the summer in Santa Barbara with his buddies. Remember that? Remember being 24?
Yes, sir.
Reminds me I have to clean out my refrigerator. I have things at least 24-year-old there.
All right, Terry. Well, I want to thank you, and I really appreciate you letting me interview you for this.
This has been a hoot.
And we'll hear from you more, I hope, in future episodes.
Good. I'm ready to come back, ready and anxious to come back.
And potentially, you may even have your own podcast starting. So
well, maybe, yeah. We're you know, you inspire me. But let me give this advice. You know, acting should really be primarily for the fun of it. Yes, there's a matter of commerce to it, and getting jobs and succeeding and making money and all that. But really approach it with fun, like you do. You know, you have all these gifts, you have all these wonderful voices and great breath control. Very important, breathe diaphragmatically. But, you know, just have fun with it. Because that's what the producers are looking for. They're looking for a feeling of fun, and you give them that, you know.
It gives them a sense of energy.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's all has to do with the theater, darling. Come and study acting with me, because it's all about collaboration.
It is. It is.
You know, and you go in and work with these people, and to the uninitiated, these producers are nameless, formless people who don't have your best interest at heart, and they do,
right?
Because they want to collaborate with you.
Yeah.
And they love it when you get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have fun.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Terry.
Do we have to get the microphone back? Is this a rental?
No, you have all time if you'd like to continue talking.
No, I think I'll have another glass of wine. Good night, all.
Good night, all.
Ah, that was nice. I want to thank Terry. I really appreciate him sitting down with me, and I want to thank you. Please like, download, and all that. YouTube, iTunes, etc. I really appreciate it. Next episode, I sit down with Adam Harrington. We'll talk League of Legends, the biz, all that. Tips, tricks, and techniques, and the interesting question, politically incorrect casting. We'll get to that in the next episode. So until then, take it easy.